other people who come to our facilities that you should consider to be a customer, such as if you have an event center, you might have, a wedding, you might have business associations, there's golf outing coordinators, lots of different people that we are trying to appeal to. And so when you are creating an ad on social media, I can talk exactly to that person. Where if I am having a radio or TV ad, which I no longer even do that anymore, I did up until about 3 years ago, then you're just kind of blanketing out. You're hoping somebody that you wanted to contact actually heard your radio or TV ad, and they also knew that you were talking to them, which is very difficult to do, because when they hear golf course in the name, they're zoned out, right? They're not thinking, the HR guy isn't thinking anymore. Only the golfer is paying attention. So that's what's so cool about social media advertising. So this is a really hard mindset, because the fun part of running a business is making money. And it does not happen overnight. There is an element of you're going to have to try, and try again. It's kind of frustrating and it's irritating, and you're going to say, why didn't this work, and I tried this, and I did that, and I did everything else and told me, and now it's still not working. Well, you're going to have to just try again, because eventually it's going to work, and when you finally dial it in, there's some seats up here, guys, if you want to come to the front. Once you dial it in, you are absolutely going to make money. You're going to fail, and hopefully you don't look like this young child, but you're just going to have to pick yourself up and say, I'm going to try again. And I liked this saying, if plan A doesn't work, there's 25 more letters in that alphabet. And you've got to be patient. You just can't give up. So this is kind of a mindset which is not normal of most golf course operators, because like I said, we want it to work, and we want it to work yesterday, right? And this is where building a strategy is so important, because what happens typically in the golf world is you're extremely busy, and I'm going to use my weather situation. July hits, and I look into next week and I'm like, crap, it's 100 degrees and I only have tee times in the morning. I got to scramble really fast to come up with some incentive in order to, get my tee sheet to be filled. Well, when you have a strategy in place, you don't have to do that scrambling, because most of those things we can anticipate, because they pretty much happen almost on a yearly basis. So that's the kind of stuff that we are talking about. How many in here have ever done Groupon? All right. So I have to confess, I have done Groupon. Now, it was like 10 years ago, maybe. Anyway, what we're talking about is Groupon, one of the reasons they work so well is they have a gigantic database, and they know which types of coupons you buy, and so they incentivize you, right? And as the vendor, they make it super easy for you, and it feels like it's working really well, because you've sold a lot, and they do deposit what seems like a lot of money in your account, but they actually are kind of raping you, right? Because they're taking a majority of your money, and all they did was build a really cool database. So really sad that I didn't do that instead of a golf course. Okay, so anyway, this strategy, what I'm going to provide for you, is basically kind of like an in-house Groupon, only you get to keep all of your money. So this is my 7-step formula. I like to say 7 steps because then it makes it sound really easy. So what you have to do first is you have to set a game plan. This is your strategy. This is what it is you're going to do. And this is going to be different for all of us. Private club's going to have a different goal set than a daily fee. Resort, you're all going to have different strategies. But you have to set the game plan in place. So the best way to set up a game plan is for you to consider what the end goal is. So you want to actually work backwards. So if your end goal is that you want to book more weddings, you're going to work yourself backwards. What happened just before that person booked the wedding? What did they do? They met with your sales rep, they read an email, whatever it is. Well, how do they know about your sales rep? What comes next? What comes before that? And work your way backwards until you figure out what was that customer journey. That's setting your game plan. The next thing you have to do is you have to create a killer offer. And by killer offer, what I mean is basically it's an enticement to try to get someone to come to your facility. So a killer offer is going to be different depending on what your strategy is. So for instance, my killer offer when I try to attract brides is I give them a wedding planner. Now, my killer offer when I try to attract lesson participants might just be 10% off coupon. When I've tried to attract daily fee customers and I've run a special where I gave a sleeve of balls away. I mean, there's tons of killer offers out there, and they may not necessarily cost you money. They often are things that are stuck in your brain. It's called your knowledge, that people are willing to follow along on that sales funnel because they wanted information that you had, whether it be improvement on raising money for a golf outing. We all have tons of knowledge that we don't consider to be as valuable as we should. The next step is to design the ad, and then we're going to talk about targeting our audience. Now in that presentation, and I'm really sorry I didn't include specific slides in this when I should have, but one of the things you need to do when you do your targeting of your audience, Facebook has something that is called the Facebook Pixel. And if you did not attend that, please send me an email. And I actually, on my blog, I write how to install the Facebook Pixel. So what the Facebook Pixel is it's a piece of JavaScript code that is in the head of your website. I know I'm talking over some people's heads, but this piece of code is invaluable because that is how Facebook is following you around, okay? So right now it's kind of creepy. So like one day you're looking at a car and the next day that same car shows up in your news feed. Why did that happen? That's because that car website had that Facebook Pixel in it. And just so you know where Facebook is moving to, they are moving to not only the pixel, but also the geo-fencing targeting as well, meaning that probably in the next year, when you walk into Target and you pull up your Facebook, you're going to see an ad for Target because it knows where you are. Now, that's really valuable, as we're going to not be the creepy user of Facebook, we're going to be the one who's getting the money, right? Creepy when you're the user, super cool when you're the business. But these are the types of things that you are wanting that Facebook Pixel for. So, for instance, picture this. You have your lesson program, and you have the Facebook Pixel on your confirmation page. So on your confirmation page, that means that the person has signed up for your lesson, right? But maybe there's also someone who's only looked at the form and hasn't actually signed up for your lesson yet. So those are two different types of ads. We're talking someone who's a warm audience who hasn't signed up yet, so we might want to send them a specific ad, and then we would also send the person that has hit that confirmation, we're going to send them a different type of ad, such as 10% off a starter set, or anything that we would want to do that would appeal to a lesson participant. Okay? So this is where that Facebook Pixel is super important. And once again, I made a bad assumption that a lot of people would have attended that, so I did go into that in more detail. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to launch our ad. So I want you to pay attention right there. We did a whole lot of work before we actually launched our ad. So you got to make sure you have a strategy. And then the last two, if a lot of people I've talked to is like, I don't really actually want to do this, Allison, I just want someone to do it for me. Well, I mean, I can appreciate that. But even if someone is doing it for you, you have to know how to, at the very least, optimize your settings and look to make sure that that person is not taking advantage of you. Because it happens every single day. If they are not sharing their results, if they are not showing you how your ad is performing, and they can do it in real time every day, then that is not a good business that you want to be working with. So at the very least, you have to know how to optimize your ads. What are the things that you need to look at? And then finally, we want to charm our customer, which we're all already really good at, right? Especially after yesterday with all of our awesome emails and whatnot. Okay, so that's my 7-step strategy. Now, this is something that a lot of us, we struggle with. Giving tea times away is giving away money. You have to look at your tea sheet as very valuable, okay? So it is a lot easier to create promotions, something like that, in order to fill your tea sheet than it is to say, oh, I'll give you this or I'll give you that, okay? So that's what we got to do, this strategy. All right. So these are the steps that you want to take before you launch. And this is some of the most important things that people just skip over this part. It's super, super important. The first thing you got to do is you have to brainstorm. This goes back to that strategy. We should have a drinking game for how many times I've said strategy in the last 2 days, right? Anyway, you have to brainstorm, what are you trying to accomplish? This is super important. And as an industry, we're not really good at this, okay? Most of us kind of shoot by the hip. We have to know, what are you trying to achieve at your golf course? Are you trying to attract more daily fees? Are you trying to change the age of your golfer? Are you trying to book more weddings, business meetings? I mean, there's tons of things that you can be doing. But if you don't know what your strategy is, you're not going to be setting up your ads correctly, and you're not going to be successful. And more importantly, you're not going to know if you were successful because you didn't have the strategy in place. And I would even go as far to say that when you set up that strategy, I would even tie it to something that is tangible, such as, I want to make an additional $10,000 in golf outing revenue. Tie it to something that you can absolutely say, that worked, or that didn't work. Tie it to, I want a 10% increase in weddings, or whatever. That's the best form of a strategy, is to have something where you can make sure you're doing it right. The next thing you have to do before launch is you have some things that you have to create. We talked about a lot of those things yesterday, but to be super successful, you often have to create the ad. Then you're also going to need to create, let's see here, your landing page. You might need to create your email. It all depends on how you're going to set up, how you're going to go about accomplishing this. And then you want to get super clear on your target audience. This is important because there are times when I don't use my Facebook pixel because I am trying to attract a cold audience, and so I don't maybe necessarily need to have that pixel in place. So when I am setting up my strategy, I need to brainstorm, who am I wanting to attract? And you might even brainstorm to the point where, do I want to attract maybe 2 or 3 different type of audiences with a similar offer? So my killer offer is the same, but my audiences are different. And why would that be important? Because I'm going to speak to them differently. So if I am giving an ad out to, let's say we had a craft beer open. And let's say say I have a special price for my members for my craft beer open. Well, the ad that I'm going to show on Facebook to my members is the words are going to be different because they're my members, and the price is going to be different. Where if I am having that ad go out to just the general public to try to attract them, then I'm going to speak differently. The picture I use might be different. It might not have a picture of me because I'm not, they don't even know who I am, and so on. Okay, so this is where you want to get really clear on what you're trying to accomplish. And then the last thing you need to set up is you need to set up that tracking procedure. So, for instance, one of the things I've done this last year that was super successful is I just call it a birthday funnel. And so what I do is I have an ad that shows up in the person's news feed during their birthday week. This is an option that, I mean, you have to put in your birthday when you sign up for Facebook, right? So they know when it's the week of your birthday. So that ad shows up in their news feed, and then they click to download the coupon. That then takes them to a landing page where I ask for their email. And then in the email is where I am getting, where they get the coupon. And because I try my best to have as many foursomes as possible, in the email I cleverly write about how birthdays are more fun the more people you bring, and if you happen to bring 3 friends, I'm going to do this for you. Otherwise, I'm only going to do this. And it has been extremely successful. I started it in April, and been averaging somewhere between $500 to $1,000 a week in additional revenue. And I had to set that up because I'm more advanced than my point of sale can keep up with. So this is what I'm talking about. We have to set up a tracking procedure. So I had just a sheet of paper, and then I gave my staff, specific instructions of this is how we did it, because I had to keep track of which golfers brought 2, 3, 4 people. So my tracking procedure for my birthday funnel was, a little archaic, just because we had to use paper. But anyway, that's what I'm talking about. Is that whatever you set up, you don't want to just wing it. You got to make sure you're tracking it and that it's something that is easy to do. And then this is really important. A lot of times, our very first thing that we have to do before we launch an ad is we need to work on our website. I've done some consulting work for some Facebook advertising, and this one guy, I just couldn't really honestly help him because his website was awful. It just it didn't gather the user's information very well. It was hard to navigate, and it needed work. And so I need you to be super honest with yourself and take a good hard look at your website. And this is kind of like junk in, junk out, right? As I have mentioned before, this whole process for me, I started really focusing on kind of becoming obsessed with online marketing about 3 years ago. And where I started first was fixing my website. And so I started with there's tons of forums, there's tons of opportunity to gain information. All of those kinds of things are set up on my website. I don't only sell gift cards in my online store. In fact, that's probably the least thing that I sell in my online store. I sell lesson packages. I sell groups. I sell mini golf. I sell a beer buddy pass. It's 18 holes cart and a crappy pack, a 6-pack of beer. I sell all sorts of things. So listen to what your golfers want, and even your non-golfers, and then provide that to them in your online store. It makes advertising so much easier. And everything about it is so much easier. They buy everything online, they show up, they're like, I'm a Buddy Pass guy. And we're like, rock on. We check them off, and then we pack them a 6-pack up of Hams or Natural Light or PBR or something, and they get to brag to their buddies about, oh, look what we're drinking today. But anyway, just be real honest with yourself and think about things that people would appeal to them. And you can have a lot of fun with this. I do birthday party packages where we have pizza and golf. It looks like a cake is a golf-themed cake. I just have a baker that I call up, and when we have it purchased, and she delivers a cake that looks like golf theme. And so all of this can be, you can have lots of fun with this. Okay. And I spoke a little bit on this yesterday. I have a bigger crowd today, so I'm going to address this. But it is super important for you to plan ahead. All of my planning for marketing I do in my off season, and I dial it down very specifically. And then I pat myself on the back in July when I am, we're busy when we're going. So you gotta do it. And what I do, this is my tip, is I do what's called batching. And so I have themed out my days. So on Mondays I do content days, Tuesday I do website updates, on Wednesday I do bookkeeping, and so on. And I dedicate at least 2 hours to that day to work on that specific thing. One day, content, it falls into either blogging or writing Facebook or whatever. Anything that would be something that would be written. And I treat that 2-hour time period like it's a golf outing. Because to me, I make probably more money in that 2 hours a day than I do doing anything else. And this kind of goes back to I've read a lot of books about working on your business rather than in your business. And I listened to this guy, and I really appreciated what he was talking about. Because he said what happens is we in the management position start doing minimum wage jobs when we really should be working at the jobs where you would get paid, $100, $500 an hour. You're gonna, in the end, you really are going to be more profitable. And the only way to do that is to put it on your calendar. Super, super important. I started doing that last February, and my level of productivity has just gone out of the roof. Why? Because now, rather than chit-chatting with the staff, or they're kind of busy behind the counter, I think I'll go serve a couple sandwiches. I don't do that anymore. And you know what? They still get, everybody still gets helped, but I'm like, nope, it's my 2 hours to go do my themed day. And it's really about self-discipline, and it makes a huge, huge, huge difference. All right, so we're going to talk about during the launch. During the launch, you are going to create your ads using the Ads Manager. How many people use the Ads Manager when they're making their ads? All right, so probably most of you. How many people in here have actually made a Facebook ad? Okay, so a lot of you probably are just doing what Facebook kind of prompts you to do from your posts. So I'm going to show you how to make ads that are not part of your posts. And this is important because they can only see it when they are seeing it in their newsfeed. It's not showing up, like if they go to your page, they can't find it on your page. And that's actually a good thing, because now they have to act when they see that ad in the newsfeed. They can't just say, oh, I'm going to go search for that later. And this is important, specifically when I was talking about my birthday funnel. I've had lots of people say, oh, you know what, I went to your Facebook page and I was trying to sign up for that birthday thing, but it's not in there. I'm like, next time it shows up in your newsfeed, buddy, you're going to have to get her done. So it teaches them to not ignore your ads. Then this is super important because you can lose a lot of money in a hurry. You have to set a budget. My personal recommended budget is I do $5 a day for each ad set, and we'll get into that later. But just start with $5. That way you can make mistakes and you can still sleep at night, okay? But once you realize that the ad is working, it usually takes 48 to 72 hours, then you can increase it. But you don't want to take it from $5 to $20 because Facebook kind of freaks out when you do that. So just take it in slower increments and slowly bump it up. So you would go from $5 and then to $10 and so on. And all of that is in relation to your audience size. Because sometimes your audience size is small enough that $5 a day is perfectly fine. All right. So inside the Ads Manager, you're going to start up here. Oops. Sorry. You're going to start up here where you're setting up your campaign. That's the very first thing you're going to do. And we're going to talk about objectives here in a little bit. So in the ads campaign is where you're going to set your objective. That's the main thing. Then the next, let's see, where's my little. Then we're going to talk here about ad sets. Okay? Ad sets are where you set your budget, where you select your audience, all that kind of stuff. That goes in the ad set section. And then the final thing that you add are the ads. And you can see here in this example, this is 2 ads per ad set. This is where you kind of want to, you can experiment and test. Does this image resonate better with this image? You just don't know. And sometimes it's really weird. Like one picture can make all the difference, or your copy can make all the difference. So sometimes it's pretty minor, the things that you need to fix when you're trying to optimize. And then this is when you're during your launch, you want to absolutely make a definitive decision on your target audience, because you're going to set that up in your ad set. As I mentioned before, if you allow somebody else to run your ads, at the very least, please learn how to optimize so that you know what you are looking for. So after the launch, that's when you optimize. And then you're going to monitor how they are doing. So the main things you want to look for are the frequency of the ad. So that is how often it shows up in someone's newsfeed. So it can be easily ignored if the same ad is showing up over and over and over again. Okay, so you want to pay attention to the frequency. You want to pay attention to the CPC, which would be cost per click. And that's going to be in relation to what it is you're trying to achieve. So for weddings, if my cost per click is $10, I don't necessarily mind that because I might be making $10,000 off of them. So relatively speaking, that's not a terrible price. But I don't want to spend $10 trying to earn the business of my daily fee customer. So when you're paying attention to that, you got to keep it all in relation. And this is why it's important as for you, the operator, to know that, because it may, like your ad agency may not necessarily know the ins and outs of golf. Golf's kind of unique. Every time, I don't remember where she is, but we were talking about, when you come from an outside world and you think, oh, well, I'm going to take all the things I know from the outside world, I'm going to apply them to golf. And then, like, wait, this is a really weird business. And so that ad agency, might not know, those ins and outs of golf that you are going to know. I was just reading a book, and it's talking about how to create raving fans. It's a great book, The funny part about it, though, is that the setting of it is at a golf course, and you can tell that the author clearly doesn't play golf because they just word things funny. It doesn't, like, that just doesn't, that's not quite how it works, you know? Like, they mean green and they actually say tea, or, you know, it's silly. So, and that happens frequently when you'll be reading and they try to talk golf. It's like, nope, not a golfer. And then don't give up, because after, when you're optimizing, you've got to test. You need to test your copy. You need to test your images. It can be all sorts of very minor things that you need to fix, and then you can really get rocking and rolling. So, for instance, and then you also don't want to change it all at once, because then you don't know what actually was working. So if you think your copy is off, then just change your copy, leave your picture the same. And then wait another 2 or 3 days. If it's still not performing well, then change your image and see if that's what it is. So you gotta, sometimes it's very little minor details that you gotta change. And when you first get started, just do one thing. Just pick one thing. Don't try to grow your wedding business, your daily fee, your tee sheet. Don't try to do all those things at once. Just do one thing and get good at it. Figure out your own strategy. I'm sharing mine. I would like to think that a lot of it will work for you, but some of it may not. So figure out what works for you and develop your own system. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about launch tips. So when you first, oh, you know what, I see this stupid screen doesn't give me my notes, and I was going to go over optimization. Just a second here. I was going to talk about the different objectives. Okay, so most golf courses and local businesses in general, when you go, I think I wrote it. Most of them should be using reach. This is important, write this down. I need to use reach. Because when you first go to set up your ad, it's going to ask you what is your objective. And you're going to have a tendency to pick the wrong objective because they don't necessarily make sense. And the objective is really important because that is how Facebook understands then what algorithm it's supposed to use. What are you trying to do? And when you're picking that objective, you want to make sure that you're picking one for what your overall goal is. Okay, so I think I see the screen that I want to go to. Here we go. Okay. So you can't see this very well, but when you get in there, up here, this says awareness. I don't know what that says. I made it too small, sorry. And this says conversion. Okay, these are the different types of objectives. And so under awareness, it has 2 objectives. It's reach and traffic. So reach is you want the ad to show up in as many things in your local area. That's why you want to pick reach, okay? Traffic objective is when you're trying to drive traffic to your website, which isn't necessarily bad, but reach is the better option. Then the middle section, it has, let's see here, it has, it's called engagement, and that includes app installs, video views, lead generation, and conversions. Most of the time, we're not going to use most of those as golf courses because we're not trying to get more people to download our app. Although you might, that's not necessarily a bad objective because some of you do have apps out there. The other thing you might have a tendency to do is like, let's say your ad is a video ad. So your natural inclination is like, oh, I want to pick video views as my objective because that's my ad was a video. That's not actually what you're trying to do though. You don't want a lot of people to view that video. You're wanting the ad to reach as many people as possible in your area. So that's where you can kind of get tripped up just a little bit. There's also conversions where that is tracking how many people actually click through and convert and that kind of stuff as a customer. There's product catalog sales. Most of us would not need to use that in online store visits. Okay, so those are the objectives. So you want to be, it's super important when you first get started. And the reason it's super important is it's the only thing in your ad that you don't get to change. So if you decide that that is not an objective that's working, you actually have to start all the way over. Kind of sad. All right. So let's talk a little bit about that killer offer. When you are selecting your killer offer, you have to make it be in relation to whatever it is you're selling. This is super important. It also needs to be in relation to, like you can't, a wedding person doesn't want 50% off their golf, okay? So you have to make sure it's going with your target audience as well. And this might sound difficult, but it's not as difficult in real practice. And then this is a book, if you are struggling with copywriting at all, Ogilvy is a very well-known copywriting guy, and I found this quote, and I thought that was pretty appropriate. But he says, never stop testing, and your advertising will never stop improving. And this is so very true. You just have to just keep on going. I've had some ads that have been absolute total duds. When I first started doing mini golf birthday parties, I tried lead generation as an objective, and I set up this lead generating ad, and I think I spent like $50, and I only booked 2 mini golf birthday parties. I mean, I think I came out like $25 ahead. Woohoo! And at least I didn't lose money. But I mean, you're gonna have duds. You just are, you know? It's a learning process. But you have to just keep on going. So I redid it. I did it as reach instead, and then that month I booked 50 birthday parties instead. Okay? So you just gotta keep on trying. Okay, so now we're gonna talk a little bit about ad creation tips. So I went ahead, let's see here, I can't play a video from here. Oh, no, I know what I did. Okay. So I went ahead and swiped this ad from Golf Digest. And so let's go take a look at it. Oh, just a second. Oh, I probably don't have volume. Okay, so this is a video ad. We'll see if it. Oh no, you can't hear it. There is stuff. He is talking. Now this is a pretty fancy video ad. You don't have to actually be that fancy, but you can see here where he is giving pointers on, and they're selling like a $10 thing that helps you improve your golf game. Okay, so that is the video ad. Now we'll go back. This. Okay. Now, I am just an average Joe. So this is a picture of me making my ads. I actually made every Monday for 6 weeks starting in June at 7 a.m. reluctantly. I met my golf instructor at the golf course, and we spent an hour videotaping little segments. All of these videos were about between 5 and 10 minutes, but we would batch them, and so I would get we usually got between 5 and 6 videos. That's how, in that hour. It just does not take as long as you think it does. It just takes commitment. And so we would meet, and I just had a camera, and then I would shoot him from a couple angles. Actually, I had 2 cameras going, and then I would also have a camera on my phone. And so this here, I've been cursed with a weird genetic disorder where I have shaky hands. Not as bad as the rest of my family, but it doesn't help really well when you're trying to shoot video. And so there's this great product here. It's called a stabilizer. I don't understand why it works so well, but it helps you stabilize your phone. It's about $100. But you don't have to have any of this stuff if you don't have the finances. Just use your phone. Your phone takes really good video, okay? And so I just made all these videos, and this is the disadvantage of living in a climate where I can't take videos when I actually have time to take videos. All right? Because I had lots of time to take videos this winter, but nobody wants to look at a brown or white golf course, okay? So what I had to do was, I haven't started using any of these videos yet because I just haven't had time to put my strategy together, but I shot them all right now so that I have green videos that then I can put together in the winter. So if you're interested in this at all, and you are a northern state, or I don't know what happens in the south, do you guys ever get turned brown? Nothing? I don't know. Anyway, if your golf course looks good right now, go get your video out. So, and then there's some great apps out there that you can use. There's one, Ripple. I have that on my phone, and so Ripple takes either videos or still shots or all sorts of things like that, and then it makes it into a video. So yes, Golf Digest, that's really well put together, but you'll be shocked that Ripple can make you look pretty good. And an even better one is Video Shop. There's also stop motion. Of course, you can use, you don't have to, I have a Mac, so I put I in front of everything. But you got, the iMovie, and I'm sure Windows has something you can use too. But if you, just do something, okay? Even if it's your phone, that's fine. Just do something and batch it so that you have an hour's worth of a bunch of little videos, and you can at least do it when you're actually ready to do it. This is advice, okay? Just do that, because I wish I would have done it last summer when I was like, oh, I think I want to do this. And then when I finally got around to shooting video, my golf course was covered in snow or brown or something. So anyway, go home and do that. So we made a bunch of just very small videos. What I have done is I've taken those videos, and I am going to, the one video I did use, and it was this guy explaining how to buy golf clubs for a young kid. Okay, that's what I used in June to get my junior golfers. The rest of the videos, he has done, your grip, your stance, your, all the kind of stuff for a beginner golfer, and that is going to turn into a killer offer. Okay, so one of my killer offers that I'm going to put together this winter is, sign up here for my 5-step video series on golf basics. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. We're talking killer offer, and this was not hard. The only thing that was hard about it is forcing myself to do it. Okay. Then obviously you want to use images in your ad creation as well. I have no idea why this is the one I selected. I've been screenshotting things in my news feed, and apparently I'm trying to lose weight because a lot of stuff in my news feed keeps, telling me to lift weights. So far I've scrolled past. All right, anyway, when you're doing your picture, you can see there that all of the words to the ad are up here, and there's no words on the image. That is what you want. Facebook doesn't really like you to put words on the image. So pick images that are relatable to whatever it is you are trying to sell. Then the next thing you can do for ads, Instagram has an app called Boomerang. Have anybody done Boomerang? All right, so I'm going to show you in case you don't know what that is. I shot some Boomerang videos because I'm going to use them as my advertising. In fact, this is what we're going to use today when we build our ad. So let me find my Boomerang here. Okay, so this is what a boomerang is. It just takes it and makes you go back and forth, back and forth. So you can have tons of fun with this, with golf. You know, lots of different angles. You can zoom in on the golf ball, putting in, you know, the guy putting in, putting out. And it just sends it back and forth, okay? So that's like a video ad. This probably took me all of 30 seconds to shoot, and 25 of those seconds was me trying to figure out how to use the Boomerang app, okay? So super easy to use. You just push the button and hold it while they're doing some sort of movement. And you can have fun with this. Maybe you shoot a Boomerang ad of somebody, maybe you're really well known for your hot dogs or your cheeseburgers or something like that. You know, just somebody biting into a cheeseburger. I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated at all, okay? This is what we're talking about. This is what we want to do. And you want to do yourself a favor and get a ton of that kind of stuff in your folder so that when you actually have time to get this together, you're not saying, oh crap, I need to go shoot a video, okay? Take a lesson from me. Okay. Isn't that fun? Boomerang? All right. The other thing that you can use, if all of those things are like, Allison, you are out of your mind, I don't have time for any of that, the good news is that Facebook provides you a bunch of tools. And I didn't address this when we're talking about videos, but Facebook, one of the tools that Facebook does for videos is it helps you caption the video. That's very important if you do make a video where they actually need to hear whatever it is you're saying, because a lot of people don't ever click the, you know, maybe if you're, I'm guilty of this, I'll probably go to hell for admitting this, but I sometimes will scroll while I'm in church, so I don't want to listen to the videos in church, I'll be in trouble, right? So I can read the videos though. All right, so anyway, that's the point. You gotta have, there's times where some of you are probably scrolling right now. Oh, I don't want to accidentally hit the video and make the sound start playing. So you want to be able to read what the person is saying. So if your video has important words, you need to make sure you use captioning, and Facebook has that right in its toolbox. The other thing Facebook has is this is called a carousel. Clearly, I was trying to talk my husband into taking me to Sedona, and lo and behold, the exact house that I was looking at showed up in my newsfeed an hour later. And so this is, if I would have clicked over here, this would have a series of images, okay? So this works great for if you're wanting to have, you know, a series of selling or, you know, all sorts of different things, okay? So there's lots of options available. The other thing that you can do is you can also attach it to your online store. So this will be, I know I've talked about my Cyber Monday, and you're probably sick of me talking about it, but it's my best example. I will use this for one of my Facebook ads when I get to my Cyber Monday. Why? Because right down here I have integrated my online store with Facebook. And so now they can actually buy all of that stuff. I'll have my coupon code, and then they can buy all that stuff right in there. Works great. Now I will only show this particular ad to the people where I already have their email address. So my target audience will be my email address. Okay, that's important. I will do my other Cyber Monday ad where I'm going to a cold audience. They're going to have to download the coupon because I want their email address. Okay. This is good news for a lot of us in the room. Strong copy will not overcome a weak offer, but in many cases, a strong offer will succeed in spite of weak copy. I didn't put the marketing morons in there, but anyway, yeah. So this guy is one of the best advertisers in the 20th century. I've also read his book. Has tons of great information. But this is good news for golf course operators, because as we talked about yesterday, all of us have gently rolling hills, right? And so our lack of copy skills are going to be made up for in our awesome killer offer. So this is meant to say, all right, way to go. Okay, so let's give a couple of copywriting tips. This is a great thing to do. Call out your audience. In that first sentence, call them out. Hey, are you a beginner golfer? That should be your first sentence. If you're doing lessons or something like that. Just got engaged. Check out our ladies' night lesson program. I don't know, ladies' night out. Whatever you're doing, call them out in that first sentence. That way when they're scrolling, I almost took a picture of this morning. When I was walking down here, I walked past Starbucks, and every single person, like nobody was talking to each other. They were all walking in line, looking at their phones. And I thought, man, you know what? Look at that. We could all be in their hands while they're waiting to get their cup of coffee. All right? Anyway, call them out, because then as they're scrolling, I listen to, in case you can't tell, I read a lot. I listened to this podcast of this gentleman, and he's an 18-year-old, and he is consulting 50-year-old people in the 500 Fortune businesses, and he's teaching them how to market to his generation. And I thought this was really insightful. This kid was amazing. If you want, it's a fantastic podcast. It's called Self-Made Man. And I love listening to him. When I go see my kid up at college, I look forward to the drive because that's when I listen to podcasts. Anyway, this young man, he's only 18 years old, and he's a multimillionaire. The kid is genius. Anyway, he said his generation, what they're actually really good at is scrolling past the BS. That's important. We need to remember that. So if your words need to count. So if you are putting fluff in there, they can read that. And they just zoop right on by, right? So call them out. Let them know, hey, I'm looking for you specifically. You need to focus on the benefits of how you're helping them. And this is not a natural tendency. So much of the time we focus on us. Look at how great we are, and we need to focus on them. I'm going to improve your golf game. I'm going to do this. I'm going to help you do that. Okay? You do have to be careful. You always want to follow Facebook's rules, because Facebook tries to protect people from not feeling bad about themselves. So you can't say, hey, fatso, you want to lose weight? So make sure you're reading Facebook's rules, because they are they're very careful about that. And then you want to tell the reader what you want them to do next. You have to give a call to action, whether it be a link to your website, a link to your opt-in page, a link to your landing page, call the clubhouse, hopefully it's not that, whatever it is, you have to tell them what you're wanting them to do. Otherwise, all it was is just junk in their news feed. And you didn't benefit from it whatsoever. You got to tell them what to do next. And then you want to create easy call to action URLs. And what I mean by that is up here, I started having my sister help me write stuff this summer, and it was actually great for this presentation because she made a lot of mistakes, and so did my brother, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to make sure I address all those because I bet you're not the only ones. So one of the things is see this right here? This is a really ugly URL. And sometimes an ugly URL is perfectly acceptable because you don't need it to be memorable. But particularly when you're talking about your online tea time page, you really want that URL to be memorable. And I'm talking, you guys know what I'm talking about when I say URL that's got tons of words and letters and it doesn't really make any sense whatsoever. So what I did for this particular one is I changed this to totalvalley.com/events. Now when they go to this, they're actually going to this URL, but now my event page is something that even my golfers might be able to remember because it's an easy URL to remember. My URL to tea times is just, /tea times because I'm clever, I guess. And the way you do that is I use a plugin. I have a WordPress website. I use a plugin called Pretty Links. And so I just put in the ugly URL and then it makes it pretty. All right. What time are we at here? Okay. All right. Okay. And this goes to, is it 12:30 or 12:15? 30. All right. Okay. Then we also want to play around with longer and shorter copy. And by that, I mean this one here on the left, that's a lot of copy. But if the person is interested, now in case you don't know, I extended this so I could get the screen grab of it, but Facebook would just put a learn more blue right here. So you would have to, the user would have to actually click on the learn more to get all of this copy. But this is long copy. Here, this is short copy. And then there might, obviously there's, stuff in between. But this is going to kind of depend on what it is you're trying to sell. So I just showed you this because I can't tell you which one is right for your business. All I'm giving you is something to test. Because sometimes long copy works really well, and sometimes short copy works really well. I want you to think about the possibilities. I don't know about you guys, but I have a terrible time trying to find the HR director. It's a hard person to get, but they're very powerful and they hold lots of events. And so I used to try, I've done all sorts of things. I tried advertising in the visitors, the convention bureau. I tried sending out postcards to a list I bought of HR directors. I've tried tons of things to try and get more people to hold business seminars out at our golf course. Because I have this big, awesome room, and it's empty probably 70% of the time because we use it for golf outings and weddings. But there's a lot of times during the day that a business meeting can be going on, and I'm 10 times better in a hotel. Look at our view, people. It isn't very pretty, right? It's really pretty at a golf course. So, but it's really hard because the HR director, they always just go to a hotel. And so that's their inclination, and they just don't even think golf courses. Well, you can actually find the HR director on Facebook. You can find the fundraising chair. You can hold seminars teaching them how to raise more money. You can do all sorts of different things. I mean, the possibilities are endless. And this is particularly awesome because now when you're making your year-long strategy during your off-season, that's when you're going to start filling your building or whatever it is with this. This is the kind of stuff we're working on right now. I've got stuff I'm working on for holidays. I'm building a fundraiser seminar in February. I mean, there's all sorts of things that we're trying to do. I am giving myself 1 month where I have nothing going on. Anyway, I mean, that's what we're trying to do. Okay, and you can do it too. We all have different operations. I'm just trying to get you to think about the possibilities. They're endless. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a couple super cool tips. All right, so let me get out of this thing here. This is audience creation. So I've told you several times about building your audience. And let's see here. So what you want to do is in your ads manager, you're going to come here. Actually, you're going to go here first, and then you're going to go to audiences. Okay? And there's actually tons of great insights, but I didn't want to go super, super deep on there because it will give you lots of different information that it's super, super cool. Anyway, that's up here in Audience Insights. But when you go to Audiences, and you click on, sorry, it's so weird. How do I get this back? No, that's not what I want. You click on Add New, and you're going to click Custom Audience. So you can see here that I have a few audiences behind the scenes that are too small. And you have to have Facebook wants an audience of at least 100 people. And so one of my audiences that is too small is for the Couples League. And another one is for the mini golf. But it won't be too small forever. And right now I'm gathering that data so that once it's not too small, I can advertise to them. So what you want to do is you come here to your website traffic, and this won't work unless you have the pixel on your page, okay? So you come here to website traffic, and now you can say you can determine how many visitors you want. So this is great for just even your home page, your confirmation page. I would make an audience for all of those types of things that are important because you never know when you're going to use them, okay? And then you go in there and you're going to name your page, and then here, it's right down here it says people who visited specific web page. And that's when, right here, you put in the web page of that URL. And that's how this is tracking this stuff. So I have an event page for my Couples League. I have them register. And we just started doing it in August. And so I'm trying to build for next year. And so anyway, I put in the URL to that event page right here. And then once you click, we'll find a web page here that
You can tag any website you want.
Only your own. Only your own. And it has to have the pixel in it. You have to have the Facebook pixel. And you can, while I'm here, I'll show you. I may not have it on this. It doesn't look like I have it on this. Right here, this. You have to be in Chrome for it to work. And this is the Facebook Pixel Helper. And so that's the thing that will tell you whether or not you have a Facebook Pixel or not. And so you only, because you're only in charge of your own website, you can't do other people's. So what you would want to do, I don't remember if it was Elaine or somebody had a question that some of their people were struggling with, like they have foot golf, and so they want to know a person who's interested in foot golf, but they're sending them directly to the foot golf website. Well, what you want to do is you want to send them to your website first. So the pixel is on your website and then over to Foot Golf. Because you know if they looked at your website about Foot Golf, now you know they're interested in Foot Golf. But everything has to take, the pixel is all about you. Because it would be really awesome if you could track other people's websites, but you can't. So anyway, you put that, so if I wanted to track something, I would just put in what my URL is right here, okay? And then you would put create audience, okay? So every time I do this, this last summer I've started doing this to build more and more audiences because I find them, I think they're going to be very useful as I continue to get better and better at what I'm teaching you right now. So every time I make a form on my website, I go in and create an audience for that form. So now I can track who is filling out that form. Because now I can turn around and I can market to them. Okay.
Allison, does
Yeah.
the pixel exist just in one place on your website or on multiple pages?
You want the pixel on every page of your website. It doesn't have to be on every page of your website, just makes your life easier. Because you want to be able to track every page. Now, obviously, there's some pages you're not going to track, but it's just easier to put them on all of them. And I won't, because I didn't make slides on this, but I did cover it in another, so if you haven't watched that webinar I did in June, get on Accelerate and watch that webinar because I go in a little more extensively to the Facebook pixel because the Facebook pixel can actually track a lot more things. Like it can tell you if somebody has clicked, and there's a lot more detail to the Facebook pixel. But because I'm not really prepared well to go over that. I'm not going to go into detail on that. Okay. Then the other thing that's super cool is this is a trick of how to see what other advertisers are using as they're targeting. So if I go to my, oh look, there's Upwork, okay? So in your news feed, you're going to look at your advertisers, okay? You're going to click over here. I want to know, why am I being shown Upwork's ad? So you click over here in these three dots, and you see right here, why am I seeing this ad? On a side note, if you don't want to see it, you can also hit hide, okay? Or turn off, you don't want to see this. Okay, so you click here, and now you can see that the reason Upwork has been trying to advertise to me is that I am in that particular age group and I've connected with them on their website. So not super complex. If I scroll down, let's see here. These are my drinking buddies. They're really fun. They go live. Honestly, if you have like a fun bartender or something, or somebody's good at mixing drinks, they have they go live and they mix fun drinks all the time. But and they have a huge following. And they take shots of all the different types of alcohol they put in, and then they make the drink, and then they drink it together. So they're super fun. This is what I'm telling you. There's all sorts of things you can do to liven up your course a little. I'm trying to find another. Sorry, this is embarrassing. Okay, so this is another. I've never even heard of this business before. So they're probably marketing me because of my age as well. Yep, sure enough. But my point is, in here, I don't want to expose myself too much, I guess. But in here, you are going, if you play around with that, you can see what other people are targeting for. Because sometimes it will say they're targeting you because you made a purchase on their website, or you are a part of their email list, or it will give you exactly what they were using in their ad set, and it's super helpful. So if you're just kind of getting started, like what are other people doing in order to track me, and try not to be weirded out by that, but use it to your advantage instead. Okay. wanted to ask for 2 screens, but I didn't. I was like, okay, I'll just flip back and forth. Okay, so we've kind of addressed this a little bit, but you can have more than one audience on your ad. And so when you do that, you got to make sure you are speaking to that audience directly. So you're going to talk to your members much differently than you're going to talk to a cold audience who doesn't know who you are. So just keep that in mind when you are creating your audience. And the other thing you want to pay attention to are what kind of audience are you talking to? Are you talking to a beginner golfer? Are you talking to an advanced golfer? You have to ask them questions, and you gotta interact and engage with them. And you should interact and engage with them on your ad as well. And then the other aspect is you're going to have cold and warm audiences. I didn't make a slide for this, and I apologize. So I recommend that you have 4 audiences for your ads. So your first one is going to be your email list. You're going to upload your email list. You do that in that same audience section where we said create a custom audience, only it's going to say upload a file. Okay? You're going to upload your email list. Now, I think the only one that continually talks with Facebook is MailChimp. So you're going to have to upload your email list once a week, whatever, in order for it to keep up to date. It's not talking to your point of sale system, so you're going to have to download that Excel file and upload it. Whatever is appropriate for your business, okay? The next, and that's going to be a warm audience. So we're going to talk to them different. People who are on our email list, they know, like, and trust our business, okay? Then we're going to create what is called a lookalike audience. Lookalike audience is person that they're going to take your email list, they meaning Facebook, they're going to take your email list, they're going to look at the interests and how they behave and all the aspects of your email list, and then they're going to create an audience for you that looks like your email list. Okay? So that's audience number 2. Then you want an audience of your fan page. And sometimes if that's really small, you can also do a lookalike audience of your fan page as well and combine them. Mostly though, you want to keep your audiences separate so that you can control what's working and what's not working. Because you might actually be doing really well with a cold audience and not so well with a warm audience, or usually it's vice versa. But anyway, that's why you want to keep everything separate. You don't want to combine them all together. And then the last thing you want to do is your cold audience. Your cold audience is going to be people who live within a radius of your golf course and have a set number of interests. Now, you're going to have a tendency to put 30 interests because they're all available, okay? You don't want to do that. You really want to keep it to maybe 5, and hopefully they're kind of similar. And you don't want to go wild because you don't know which things are actually working, okay? And so if you have 50 interests, you're not going to know which interest is actually working. And this goes all the way back to yesterday at 1 o'clock when we talked about who is your perfect golfer. Because when you dial that in and you know what your perfect golfer is, what do they do in the off season? Do they bow hunt? Do they play bowling? They do other things besides play golf. And you need to know what those things are so that you can target them, so you can make sure you have dialed them in, okay? So that's why that is super important. But don't go hog wild in your details and interests. Keep it to things that are very similar, and then create an entirely new ad set. Because that way you can turn the stuff off and on. You're like, oh, this one totally sucks. This one is good. So these are the types of things that you test, okay? Found another quote. We don't have a choice on whether we do social media or not. The question is how well we do it. It's not going away, and the problem is right now we're, as an industry, so far behind. We're going to have a somewhat hard time kind of catching up, and it's changing really quickly right now. So, when I first took over my family's golf course 14 years ago, they didn't have a website. And that wasn't like unheard of. I thought it was weird, so I built one right away for them. But we had, like a 10-year period where, golf courses, I don't know if they thought websites were going to go away or something, but, you had 10 years where you weren't like a total dinosaur if you didn't have a website. You're not going to have that level of leniency anymore. It's changing very quickly right now, and you have to do this. It's extremely important. Okay, so before I launch, I am going to address, are there any questions? All right, either I've totally confused you or I did a really, really awesome job. I'm going with the latter. Okay. Okay, so I thought what would be easiest, what kind of time am I sitting on here? Okay, well this will be fun. I thought I would do just a very simple ad for my Facebook Live show. My guy who does it, he's called it Golf for the Rest of Us. And I wanted to cover what I have already done. Because remember, we talked about brainstorming. What are the things that you have to do before you launch an ad? And there's a lot you got to do. You got to be prepared. Yeah.
You said you set up Facebook groups on events, so they sign up, and so you have more targeting to the groups. How many actually engage? Because you've got your email list, and that's segmented, you've got a member list, etc. And now you're creating all new groups, and I'm just wondering how big they are, how small they are, because all of them, once you sign up for something, need content.
Okay, so they are just, they're targeting groups. So I am just gathering them so that I have it available if the mood strikes me to retarget them with another ad. So I don't necessarily have to, they're kind of just in a holding tank for me right now because this goes back to me not making videos until last summer like I should have.
Yes.
So I'm trying to predict what I might want to do in the future. And so I'm just building audiences in the meantime, thinking that I might, building audiences, you really don't need to do that right now. That's not something you should do right away because you got to get your feet wet first. But this was advanced, so I thought I would tell you what I'm working on. So don't get real stumbled on that because I'm just envisioning myself someday this winter putting together programs of being able to retarget people who have booked my miniature golf, and then I turn around and try and attract them with a coupon or something like that. But I don't want to. I want that to be a warm audience that I know they're going to come back. So that's why I'm building that kind of stuff. I don't even know if I'm going to use all the audiences, but at least I've done it. And now I'm not scrambling at the end going, man, I wish I would have had a targeted audience for this particular activity.
Okay, so you're setting it up without an expectation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't clear on that. So yeah, no, I'm. It's kind of just my. I'm just like a hoarder. Not in real life. My parents. If you guys watched my thing last year, I actually had to spend $20,000 to haul away all of my parents' 40 crap at the golf course. So we had mowers like we're 50 years old, and all that was left was like one tire or something. So anyway, I am not a hoarder.
Quick question on,
Yeah.
on the audiences. Correct me if I'm wrong here. From my understanding, your CPC can change based on the audience as well too. So if I'm posting to people or advertising to people who it's not relevant or it's not timely, it's not good content, my CPC goes up. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. So, and that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to build warm audiences, because as we all know, it's 10 times easier to make money to people who already are coming to your golf facility. And so I'm just trying to come up with, like, trying to think ahead of what I might do next. And because one of the things that's really cool about Facebook is its retargeting ability, which it doesn't have, other advertising venues, they don't have that as an option. I was just talking to T Snap, and we were discussing how funny it is how in his email campaign that they send up, he actually, they have it set up where they send out an email blast for their birthday, and a certain percentage open. They send out a reminder to people who didn't open it the first time, and they still get people to open, and they actually do it a third time. And he had like a 25% open rate on the third email. This is crazy, but that's retargeting, because sometimes, they scrolled and, the light turned green, so they stopped scrolling. That's bad. But, that's what happens. That's real life, okay? And so, you want to, that's what that, being able to go back and say, hey, you kind of acted interested in us. Are you sure you don't want to, make the complete sale? Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, so what I did first, I've already set my game plan. So my game plan for my Facebook Lives at this time in my life is I'm trying to use them to build my email list. Okay? So that's what my game plan is. That's my end goal. Okay? My killer offer that I'm going to try to attract people with is I am going to write, I'm just going to make a PDF in Word of 3 ways to take 5 strokes off your game. Okay? So I've already, and then I've also already made a landing page. Here, I'll show you. Oh, this is not what I want. Okay. So I've already made a landing page. This is like internet at home. Okay. So this is my landing page. It's housed on my website. It doesn't look like my website because I just have one goal. I want people to sign up to get Bob's tips. Okay? Now, don't all of you guys sign up because I don't want to screw up my audience. Anyway, this is what I wanted. This is what. So I've got a landing page. I use a company called leadpages.net. They have a bunch of just templated landing pages. They integrate with my email system, so they make it super easy. And then you can see here that this is my opt-in, okay? And so this is how they get the information. And then the other thing I've done beforehand, this is all the pre-launch, is I have written an email that once they have filled this out, then they get an email saying, thanks for signing up for Bob's Things. Here's links to his other Facebook Lives. This is what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so I've already done all of that part. Okay. I don't know what this promo is, but I kind of like it just based off the video. Okay. I actually think this is something that makes videos for Facebook ads, so maybe you guys should write it down. Okay, so I am in my Ads Manager. Now to get to the Ads Manager, I come over here to Ads Manager, okay? That's in my personal Facebook section. Okay, and I'm going to click Create Ad. So this is, remember that screen where we talked about with that triangle walking down? You can see all of that stuff is right here. So at my campaign level, I've got to set my objective. Then we're going to move into the ad sets, and then we're going to create the ad, okay? So for this, I'm gonna go with reach. I'm gonna name my, my campaign. And now I'm gonna pick, I have multiple Facebook pages, so I have to pick the golf courses. And now I am creating ad sets. Now over here, you can see all this, okay? So over here, there are times when you might want to have more than one ad set. The reason you want to have more than one ad set is because you might be trying to attract those different types of audiences, but you're using just one ad. So that goes back to your email list, your lookalike, that kind of thing, okay? I wish I would have clicked that now. For this specific one, I'm just gonna create this one. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to click reach. And you want to come up with a system of what to name your campaigns. Otherwise, you're gonna hate yourself. So come up with some sort of system that works for you, whether it be, email, I don't even know, whatever it is, but come up with some sort of system. Otherwise, you're going to be searching and you don't even know, sometimes like, what in the world was I thinking? So anyway, come up with a system for writing those. Okay, so I'm going to pick the golf course. And down here, you can have different audiences that have been saved. So once you have created an audience, like your email list or something like that, that's all over here in your saved audiences. Then you can also create new. Creating new, you can do what we did up here when we went to here to audiences, when we did this. You can actually create them from here as well, okay? So you would add, I'll show you what this is. So this right here is up here, customer file. This is where you would upload your email list right here. Up here, this is a new one, engagement. This is people who have talked to you on your posts and all that kind of stuff. That's why it's super important for you to have engagement. People who are talking to you, you can attract them. So I guess I'll just pick this one. This is what's cool about it. So over here, if people have watched your video, then you can target just those people. This is really cool. So now, if you want to have an ad where it's you've done your chipping clinic and your Facebook Live, and your wedges just came in, and you want to offer, just tell people that your wedges came in, you can have the ad show up to the people who watched your chipping clinic, okay? So, this is so cool, all the stuff you can do. I'll just go ahead and pick this. Now I can pick, let's see here. I shouldn't have gotten so complex. I was planning on making this simple. I'm just going to do people who do my Facebook page. Let's see here. So this is everyone who has interacted with me. I don't know why this isn't turning blue. I feel like that iPhone guy when he was showing the face and it didn't work. It's really anticlimactic. Why is that not showing up? Normally that just turns into, okay.
Do you already have that audience?
What's that? I might already have that audience. I'll show you this one because this is the creepy one. Down here, and down here in detailed targeting, you can see here that you can pick people who have an upcoming birthday. That's what I use to get them to show up for my birthday funnel. And then to make it not be huge, I make it, you know, I always do everything that's right around 50 miles of my golf course. Okay, so you can see here that we're going to do just $5 a day until you actually are doing it well. And how often it shows up, you always want your bid amount to be automatic and not manual, because then Facebook takes care of everything. And if you are not having a very high visibility, which this probably isn't an issue in golf, but you might not be you might need to make it be higher than $5, because that might be under what other people are willing to spend. So this kind of is similar to Google Ads, but you know, if you're not spending high enough, then your Google Ads doesn't show up. So that could be a possibility. All right, and so I'm going to move over here, and now we're into the creating ads. This would be if I wanted to create it for my Instagram. Instagram, Facebook are all tied together. And then right here, this is what I was telling you about, that Facebook can do a lot of this stuff for you. So this is that carousel where it has multiple pictures that go across. Here's your single image, your video. If you want to create a slideshow, all of that stuff is visible in there. And I am going to use that boomerang. And so then, you know, this is same old, how you upload. Here's my little boomerang video. And now I'm going to come in here and fix my text so that I'm going to use my good copywriting skills from yesterday, right? And I'm going to write something along the lines of, you know, join Bob to learn, I don't know, more about how to fix your swing. You and I don't know if I'll go ahead and tell you this, since I see this mistake frequently. In Facebook, in order to get paragraphs, because it's easier to read paragraphs rather than one big chunk, you have to hit Shift and Return. Okay, so what I did right here is I hit Shift and Return. Because people like reading, like this is a lot harder to read when it's just all words all smashed together. So make sure you are writing in paragraphs. And then you can see over here, this is what it's looking like. So I can figure out, you know, do I want that or do I not like that? And I'm sorry, I didn't think this completely through. I should have, this isn't really showing how to do the killer offer. So the killer offer then would be right here. I'm going to provide a link to that landing page. So if my killer offer was the 5 tips, I would say something like, here's 5 tips to take 3 strokes off of your game. And then I like to use things like this, just whatever you can do to kind of break up the copy to make it so it's easier to read. And then here I'm going to put whatever my, I'm just making this up because I haven't actually loaded my thing in there. 3 steps, that's my URL, okay? I don't think Facebook actually likes that one because it checks to make sure it's a good URL. I'll just put line in there. All right. So now this is my ad that I have created to advertise Bob's Facebook Lives. Now there are I probably should, and then I would click confirm, but because this is actually kind of a terrible ad, I don't actually want to put it out there. I don't want to have upcoming birthdays show all that. I would click confirm, and then you're going to have, Facebook is going to come in and it is going to approve or not approve your ad. And usually when you don't get your ad approved, it's because you have used some sort of word that they do not like. Once again, this goes back to snowflakes and that kind of stuff. So anyway, does that make sense? Do you guys want me to back up and show a different example of like how, okay. So anyway, that is how you're using the Ads Manager. And when you're in the Ads Manager, that ad that we just created, it doesn't ever show up in your newsfeed. And that's what's kind of cool, because now the people need to pay attention to your specific sponsored ad. I think that is the end of my presentation. I think I closed it actually. Let me check and make sure. I did videotape myself doing a little bit better job. I was worried about doing that live. I should have rehearsed it. All right. So if you, I actually walk you through setting up a specific ad that's not so jumbled. It looks so weird on my screen. I'm sorry for that. But anyway, if you go to this, I have videotaped myself walking you through that a little bit in more detail. So make sure you go to theallisongeorge.com/tech. And next week I'm going to be, what I'm doing is I'm addressing questions, because I've never done a TechCon before and I had no clue what level of skill set I was dealing with. And so if you have questions, I'm going to be addressing those in that follow-up series as well. So you'll get an email from me next week with all that information. So, yes?
How much money do you spend on these advertising?
When I first, last year, I only spent $500 because I'm cheap. This year, I've gotten better at, success, and I'm probably spending, I think I'll probably spend about $2,500 by the end of the year. And I mean, I'm clear up in revenue, and I mean, the only thing I've done really differently is Facebook marketing. Is there any other questions? Yeah.
Do you always run them for 7 days?
No. I shouldn't have selected something because that doesn't always show up, but no, I don't. Because I should have taught you a different section, and in the email follow-up that I give you, I'll walk you through a better scenario. So no, because we skipped over, there's a portion where you can tell you how long you want it. And so yeah, no, like my birthday funnel has been running since April. And I was going to turn it off in October, but it's still 90 degrees, so we're going to keep on going. So no, I play around with it, and I mean, I just can't encourage you enough to just give it a try, and just try to take those concepts and just don't be afraid of it, and just monitor it. It's not ever something you can just set up and then never look at again. I look at my birthday funnel a couple of times a week, because I've actually had to make some changes to it because it was working really great and then it wasn't, and so I had to make some changes. And that's that's something that you're going to have to do. You can't. It's not just like a set it and forget it kind of thing. Yeah.
Can you change your ad in the middle? For instance, your birthday thing. Once it starts to become winter, you're going to offer them something different.
Right. So you don't want to just change everything. I know this is going to be real complicated. So what, I won't even cover that. Okay. So anyway, I'm just going to create an entirely new ad, and I'm going to turn that one off.
Okay.
But there's a lot of engagement on it. There's a lot of likes, tons of shares that I don't want to lose. So I'm going to keep that ad, because when I start from scratch, I lose all of that credibility. And so I don't want to just delete it. So I want to use it again next year, because when you start from scratch, then I mean all those comments and everything, they're not there anymore.
And when you start next year, you can change almost almost everything except for reach.
Right, yeah. But it looked to me like Facebook is changing constantly. Like almost every day you log in, like, oh, well, this wasn't here yesterday. So they're constantly running out new things, and they only unveil them in like sections. So yours might look totally different than mine because they're constantly doing updates to their algorithm, everything else. And that was, I noticed that, and it almost looked to me like maybe you can change your objective now. You haven't, I've never been able to, but the techie in me was wanting to pretend like you guys weren't all watching and go say, oh, what is this? So it just, you have to have like the new car syndrome. If you're like me, when you get in a new car, like, oh, let's push all these buttons, right? Okay, so that's kind of what Facebook is like, because they're constantly rolling out new things, and you kind of say, oh, I'm going to click this and see what that does, because, you know, it's all improvements, you know, and so, you know, that's a good thing. Yeah, yes?
Did you ever run a campaign asking to get some tournament or other event, winery event, or disaster event, to actually post photos, post their experience on your Facebook page to...
I have not ever done that as an ad.
No, just a campaign, not an event.
Yeah, so just like, sure, yeah,
That has to work.
sure. Just to, you know, I mean, it depends on what all you do. There's a lot of questions behind that, because, like, we've run contests before. It works if you give something away. So if it's a contest, and actually one of the contests I'm doing for next year is I'm going to do a trick shot contest, where we're going, I don't know what I'm going to give away yet, but I want people to, I've been showing trick shots on my Facebook posts, and I'm like, hey, you guys want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, that looks like fun, because I want to make sure before I put the effort to putting a trick shot contest, you know, I want people to actually do it. So that I was kind of teasing them first with these viral videos of trick shots, trying to figure out, you know, do people actually want this, or do they, you know, is that not something we would want to do? So, and I've done, usually I use it on Instagram of, you know, like a photo contest or something like that. So, I mean, whenever you give something away, it usually works well. We also did a sandwich. We were sick of making the same stupid sandwiches for 40 years. And, you know, hot dog, ham and cheese, you know, it's like, you know, I grew up on this stuff and I'm still eating it. So we had a sandwich contest. This was super fun. It was kind of like a March Madness, where we had all these people give us recipes of like their sandwich, okay? And then over Memorial Day weekend, we had 6 sandwiches and that we prepared, and we started on Friday, okay? And whoever sold the most, the top 4 that sold the most, then they got made on Saturday. And then the top 2 got made on Sunday. And then the winner was announced on Monday. You know, just silly stuff, but it gets people, you know, it attracts a different kind of audience as far as like a, you know, cooking. And it was fun for us because we weren't making the same hot dog day after day. But sadly, we don't offer that sandwich anymore.
And Allison, speaking of sandwiches, I'm here to let you know that lunch is on the ground level, level 1.